There comes a moment in life when God no longer allows evil to hide behind success. There comes a day when every lie reaches its expiration date, every hidden plan is exposed, and every person who thought they could destroy a chosen one realizes they were fighting against the hand of God. If you are hearing this today, I believe you are not here by accident. This message is for the person who has cried in silence, who has been betrayed without explanation, who watched people mock your kindness, steal your peace, spread lies about your name, and celebrate while you suffered. But listen carefully, because everything is changing. Those who believed they had won are beginning to lose everything. The same people who laughed while you were struggling are now crying behind closed doors. The same people who thought they could trap you are finding themselves trapped. Some are losing relationships, some are losing money, some are losing their influence, and for others, justice is reaching them in ways they never expected. Some are even facing legal consequences and public humiliation because no one escapes the timing of God. You didn't have to fight them. You didn't have to destroy them. God simply stepped in, and when God steps in, no amount of power, manipulation, or deception can stop what is about to happen. Many of you spent months asking God why he remained silent while your enemies seemed to prosper. You questioned whether your prayers were even being heard. You watched people twist the truth, turn others against you, and make it appear as though you were the problem. But God's silence was never his absence. While you were waiting, heaven was gathering evidence. While you were crying, God was preparing justice. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not God removing your enemies immediately, but allowing them enough time to expose their own hearts. They thought they were getting away with everything, but every dishonest action was adding another brick to the wall that would eventually collapse on them. The Bible reminds us that whatever a person sows, they will also reap. That law has never failed, and it never will. You don't need revenge when you have divine justice working on your behalf. God sees every tear you cried when no one else noticed. He heard every prayer whispered through sleepless nights. He recorded every moment you chose forgiveness instead of bitterness. And now, what you planted in faith is beginning to produce a harvest that no one can stop. Have you noticed something? The people who wanted to erase your future are suddenly disappearing from your path. They are letting you go because they have no choice. They thought controlling you would give them power, but instead, they discovered that the more they fought against God's plan for your life, the weaker they became. They are exhausted from carrying lies that were never meant to survive. They are tired from pretending to be happy while living with guilt, fear, and anxiety. Some are crying because they finally realize what they lost when they walked away from someone chosen by God. Others are crying because the doors they closed on you are now closing on them. Isn't it amazing how God works? The very opportunities they tried to steal from you are finding their way back into your life. The peace they tried to take from you is returning stronger than ever. The favor they tried to block is opening doors that no human being can shut. And while they are busy trying to understand why everything is falling apart, you are stepping into a season of restoration that will leave everyone speechless. Never celebrate another person's downfall, because that is not the heart of a chosen one. Your victory is not found in someone else's pain. Your victory is found in God's faithfulness. We don't rejoice because people are suffering. We rejoice because justice reminds the world that righteousness still matters. Pray for those who hurt you, but never chase those who rejected you. Bless those who cursed you, but never return to places God rescued you from. Some people only recognize your value after they lose access to you. They thought they could replace your loyalty, your prayers, your kindness, and your presence. Now they understand that what God placed inside you cannot be copied. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be manipulated. A chosen one carries something this world cannot manufacture: the presence of God. That presence is why doors continue opening even after disappointment. That presence is why peace remains even after betrayal. That presence is why your future is still brighter than your past. Someone listening today is about to receive the breakthrough they almost gave up on. You have been asking God if your waiting has been worth it. The answer is yes. Every tear was watering the ground where your blessing was growing. Every lonely night was preparing your spirit for greater responsibility. Every rejection was redirecting you toward the people who truly belong in your life. You are not being delayed, you are being developed. You are not forgotten, you are being protected. While others were chasing temporary victories, God was building an eternal purpose inside of you. They looked at your silence and called it weakness, but your silence was strength under God's control. They mistook your patience for defeat, but heaven was writing a different ending to your story. So stand tall today. Stop questioning your calling because of temporary pain. Stop doubting yourself because of what others said about you. Stop looking back at people who already made their decision to walk away. Let them go, because God is already replacing what left with something greater. If they are losing everything, let God handle their story. If they are crying, let God comfort them. If they are facing consequences, trust God's perfect justice. Your assignment is not to look back. Your assignment is to keep moving forward with humility, faith, and confidence. The next chapter of your life will confuse those who tried to bury you, because they never understood that seeds must be buried before they grow. You were never buried to be forgotten. You were planted to rise. And as you continue walking with God, no weapon formed against you will have the final word. Your future is protected, your purpose is unstoppable, your peace is returning, and your testimony is only beginning. Keep believing, keep praying, keep trusting, because the God who carried you through every battle is about to reveal why he never allowed the enemy to win. Your season of restoration has arrived, your destiny cannot be stolen, and what God has prepared for you is far greater than anything you have ever lost. Have you ever wondered why God sometimes allows people to continue doing wrong for so long? Have you ever looked around and asked yourself, Lord, why do those who lied about me seem to be winning? Why are the people who betrayed me smiling while I am the one carrying the pain? If you have asked those questions, you are not alone. Many chosen ones have stood exactly where you are standing today. They have cried behind closed doors while those who hurt them appeared to celebrate in public. They watched people manipulate situations, spread false stories, steal opportunities, and even convince others that the chosen one was the problem. It felt unfair. It felt painful. It felt as if justice would never arrive. But hear me carefully today. God's justice is never cancelled. It is only delayed until the perfect moment. The delay is not because God cannot act. The delay is because God is allowing the truth to reveal itself so completely that no one will be able to question his judgment when it comes. Some people mistake God's patience for permission. They believe that because nothing happened immediately, they have escaped the consequences of their actions. They continue lying because the first lie worked. They continue manipulating because people believed them. They continue hurting others because no one challenged them. Their confidence grows with every dishonest victory, and eventually they convince themselves that they are untouchable. But what they fail to understand is that every decision is being recorded by heaven. Every conversation held in secret, every act of betrayal, every attempt to destroy someone's peace, every false accusation, and every scheme built on deception is seen by God. Nothing escapes his attention. While people may only see appearances, God sees motives. While people may believe carefully crafted stories, God knows the truth that lives inside every heart. Many chosen ones make the mistake of thinking they need to defend themselves against every accusation. They spend sleepless nights trying to explain their side of the story. They feel pressured to prove their innocence to people who have already made up their minds. But sometimes God tells his children to remain still because he has a greater plan. Your silence was never weakness, it was trust. Every time you chose not to return hatred with hatred, you were placing your battle into God's hands. Every time you refused to seek revenge, heaven was taking over the fight. That does not mean your pain was ignored. It means your case was transferred to the highest court that has ever existed, the court of God's perfect justice, where no evidence is lost, no witness can lie, and no corruption can influence the verdict. Think about how many stories in Scripture reveal this truth. Again and again, people thought they had defeated God's servants. They celebrated too early because they judged the situation by what they could see. They believed temporary success meant permanent victory. But God has always been the one who writes the final chapter. The same God who sees every hidden act also knows the perfect time to expose it. Sometimes exposure happens quietly. Sometimes it happens publicly. Sometimes it comes through unexpected circumstances that no human being could have arranged. What seemed hidden for years suddenly comes into the light, and people begin asking questions they never thought to ask before. Masks begin to fall. Lies become difficult to maintain. Those who built their lives on deception find themselves trapped by the very stories they created. This is why you must never become discouraged when justice appears slow. Slow is not the same as absent. God is never late. He operates on divine timing, not human emotion. If he acted every time we demanded it, we might mistake emotional satisfaction for true justice. But God is interested in something much deeper. He wants truth to stand on its own. He wants every hidden motive to become visible. He wants those who refuse to repent to face the results of their own decisions. The consequences they experience are not because God enjoys seeing people suffer. They are the natural result of choosing darkness instead of light. Every seed produces a harvest. A seed of honesty produces trust. A seed of kindness produces peace. A seed of faithfulness produces blessing. But a seed of deception eventually produces loss. No one can escape that principle. Perhaps some of the people who opposed you are beginning to experience difficulties they never expected. Relationships they relied on are falling apart. Opportunities they assumed were secure are disappearing. Their influence is weakening. The respect they once demanded is fading because truth has a way of exposing what appearances cannot hide forever. For some, the consequences may even include legal troubles or public accountability. Because actions always carry results, that does not mean we celebrate their hardship. A chosen one does not rejoice over another person's suffering. Instead, we recognize that justice reminds the world that our choices matter. God is holy, and his righteousness cannot be mocked forever. While all of this is happening, notice what God has been doing in your life. He has been strengthening your character instead of feeding your anger. He has been teaching you patience instead of revenge. He has been preparing you for greater responsibility, because the blessings he has planned for you require a heart that remains humble. If he had answered your prayers the moment you demanded justice, perhaps you would have missed the lessons that only waiting could teach. Waiting has made your faith stronger. Waiting has taught you to depend on God instead of public approval. Waiting has shown you that your identity does not come from what people say about you, but from what God says about you. So if you have been wondering whether God has forgotten your tears, the answer is no. Every tear mattered. Every silent prayer was heard. Every moment you chose integrity over retaliation was noticed by heaven. The people who tried to write your ending never realized that God was still writing your story. They thought they had the final word, but they never did. The final word has always belonged to God. As truth continues to rise, you do not need to force your vindication. Continue walking with humility. Continue choosing forgiveness over bitterness. Continue trusting the Lord even when the process feels long. The same God who has watched every hidden act is also the God who knows how to restore every broken season. Justice is not driven by human anger. It is established by God's perfect wisdom. And when His timing arrives, no lie can stand against the truth, no deception can overcome His light, and no plan formed against a chosen one can stop the purpose that God has already declared over their life. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the battle suddenly changes. For a long time, it feels as though certain people are determined to hold you back. They criticize everything you do, question your worth, manipulate your emotions, and try to keep you trapped in a cycle of fear and self-doubt. They convince themselves that as long as they can control your thoughts, your decisions, or your confidence, they can also control your future. But what they never understand is that no human being has the authority to cancel a destiny that God Himself has established. They may delay your progress for a season. They may create obstacles that make your path more difficult. They may even convince others to walk away from you. But they cannot rewrite what God has already written. That is why there comes a day when they begin to loosen their grip. They stop chasing you, stop trying to manipulate you, stop trying to pull you back into old patterns, not because they suddenly became stronger, but because they finally realize they are fighting a battle they were never meant to win. Some of you listening today have been wondering why certain people have suddenly become quiet. The constant criticism has slowed down. The attacks are not as frequent as they once were. The people who always seem to have something negative to say have disappeared from your life. At first, you may think it is just a coincidence, but in the spiritual realm, nothing is accidental. God knows exactly when to remove people whose assignment in your life has come to an end. Sometimes He doesn't ask them for permission, He simply closes the door. The same people who once demanded your attention are now walking away because God is separating you from everything that no longer belongs in your next season. It may feel strange because you spent so much time trying to fix relationships that God was preparing to end. You prayed for restoration, but God saw that restoration was not possible because the relationship was built on control instead of love, manipulation instead of respect, and selfishness instead of genuine care. There are people who only felt powerful as long as they believed you depended on them. They enjoyed seeing you question yourself. They enjoyed watching you seek their approval. Every time you apologized for things that were never your fault, they felt stronger. Every time you doubted your calling because of their words, they believed they had won. But something changed inside you. Maybe it happened slowly. Maybe it happened through countless prayers, sleepless nights, and moments when you had nothing left except your faith. God began rebuilding your confidence from the inside out. He reminded you that your identity was never created by human opinion. Your value was never determined by someone's acceptance or rejection. You were chosen long before they entered your life, and you will remain chosen long after they leave. When God begins restoring your confidence, something remarkable happens. The very things that once controlled you lose their power. Words that used to wound you no longer have the same effect. Rejection that once broke your heart becomes redirection toward something better. You stop chasing people who keep running away from you. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You stop begging for seats at tables where your presence was never appreciated. Instead, you begin walking with quiet confidence because you know that if God opens a door, no person can close it. And if God closes a door, no amount of human effort can force it back open. This is often the moment when those who tried to control you begin to panic. They notice that you no longer react the way you used to. They notice that you are no longer responding to every insult, every accusation, or every attempt to provoke you. Your peace frustrates them because they expected your emotions to remain under their control. They assumed they could always pull you back into the same cycle of conflict. But now they are discovering that the version of you they once manipulated no longer exists. God has transformed you. He has healed wounds they thought would remain open forever. He has given you wisdom where confusion once lived. He has replaced fear with faith and insecurity with confidence rooted in His promises. Some people eventually let you go, not because they suddenly appreciate you, but because they realize their tactics no longer work. Manipulation loses its power when truth enters the picture. Control disappears when a person understands their identity in Christ. Fear cannot survive where faith is growing. They recognize that no matter how hard they try, they cannot stop what God is building in your life. Every attack only makes you stronger. Every betrayal pushes you closer to your purpose. Every rejection opens another door that leads to greater opportunities. They wanted to limit your future, but instead, they became part of the testimony that will inspire someone else to trust God. You may still carry questions about why certain people walked away. Perhaps you wonder why friendships ended, why relationships collapsed, or why people who once promised loyalty suddenly disappeared. The answer is not always because you failed. Sometimes they left because they could not go where God was taking you. Not everyone is equipped to walk into your next season. Some people were assigned to a chapter, not the entire book. Their departure feels painful because we naturally hold on to familiar things, but God often removes what we refuse to release. He sees dangers you cannot see. He knows conversations that have taken place without your knowledge. He knows intentions hidden behind smiles. When He removes someone from your path, He is not punishing you. He is protecting your purpose. That is why you must resist the temptation to chase people God is removing. Stop trying to reopen doors that heaven has already closed. Stop exhausting yourself trying to convince people to value you. If someone chooses to leave, let them leave with peace. If someone releases you, thank God for making room for something better. Every goodbye creates space for a greater hello. Every ending prepares the way for a new beginning. God cannot fill hands that refuse to let go of what no longer belongs. Today, I want you to understand that your destiny has never been in the hands of those who opposed you. It has always been in the hands of God. People may reject you, misunderstand you, or underestimate you, but none of those things can cancel what heaven has spoken over your life. As they let you go, do not look back with regret. Look forward with expectation. God is leading you into a season where your peace will be greater than your pain, your confidence will be stronger than your fears, and your purpose will shine brighter than every obstacle you have faced. The people who tried to hold you back are releasing their grip because they have finally discovered a truth that has always existed. No one can imprison a person whom God has called to walk in freedom. Your path is opening, your future is waiting, and the one who chose you will faithfully complete everything He has begun in your life. If you have stayed with this message until now, I believe this is the part your heart has been waiting to hear. After every battle comes restoration. After every season of tears comes a season of joy. After every betrayal comes a testimony that reminds the world that God never abandons His chosen ones. The enemy wanted you to believe that what you lost was gone forever. He whispered that the opportunities would never return, that your peace was permanently broken, that your dreams had been buried beyond recovery. But the enemy is a liar. God's plan has never depended on the people who walked away from you. It has never depended on those who rejected you, criticized you, or tried to destroy your reputation. Your future has always been resting safely in the hands of the one who called you before anyone else even knew your name. That is why your restoration will always be greater than the opposition you faced. The attacks may have been real, but God's promises are greater. The pain may have been deep, but His healing reaches even deeper. Many people believe restoration simply means getting back what they lost, but God's restoration is much greater than that. God does not merely replace what was taken, He often gives something better. Think about your own life for a moment. There were doors you desperately wanted to remain open, but they closed. At the time, it felt like the end of everything. You cried. You questioned God. You wondered why He allowed certain people to leave, why certain opportunities disappeared, and why certain dreams seemed to fall apart. Looking back now, can you see that many of those closed doors were actually protecting you? Had those relationships continued, they would have delayed your purpose. Had those opportunities remained, they might have kept you from something far greater. What looked like rejection was often divine redirection. God wasn't removing good things from your life. He was making room for better things that you simply could not see yet. The people who opposed you measured your future by your current circumstances. They looked at your struggles and assumed you would never recover. They judged your silence as weakness. They mistook your patience for defeat. They believed that because you were crying in private, you had stopped believing in yourself. But they never understood what God was doing behind the scenes. While they were watching your temporary setbacks, God was building permanent strength inside you. Every disappointment was teaching you endurance. Every betrayal was teaching you discernment. Every lonely season was teaching you to depend more on God than on people. Those lessons are priceless because the blessings God is about to place in your hands require a stronger version of you than the one who first entered the battle. There are blessings that cannot be trusted to an unprepared heart. Imagine if God had answered every prayer immediately. Imagine if He had elevated you before developing your character. You might have received the blessing but lacked the wisdom to protect it. That is why waiting has been part of your preparation. God has been shaping your heart, refining your faith, and strengthening your spirit. The waiting was never wasted. Every day you remained faithful while nothing seemed to change was another day God was preparing you for a future that would require maturity, humility, and unwavering trust in Him. Now you are entering a different season. It may not happen overnight, but you will begin to notice small changes. Peace will replace anxiety. Confidence will replace insecurity. New opportunities will begin appearing where old doors once closed. The right people will enter your life without manipulation or pressure. They will recognize your value instead of questioning it. They will encourage your purpose instead of competing with it. God has a way of connecting chosen people with those who are meant to walk beside them. You no longer have to force relationships that require you to shrink yourself just to be accepted. The people sent by God will celebrate the gifts He placed inside you instead of feeling threatened by them. One of the greatest forms of restoration is the restoration of your mind. Before God changes your circumstances, He often changes your thinking. You stop living with constant fear. You stop expecting betrayal from everyone you meet. You stop believing every negative word spoken over your life. Instead, your confidence begins to grow because it is rooted in God's promises rather than human opinions. You realize that your identity has never depended on the approval of those who misunderstood you. It has always been established by the Creator who formed you with purpose. Once your mind is restored, everything else begins to follow. Your decisions become wiser, your relationships become healthier, your vision becomes clearer, your future becomes brighter, because you are no longer carrying the emotional weight of your past. The enemy wanted your pain to become your permanent identity, but God is transforming your pain into a powerful testimony. One day, the very story that almost broke you will become the story that encourages someone else not to give up. Someone will hear about your journey and realize that if God restored you after everything you endured, then He can restore them too. That is how God works. He never wastes suffering. He turns scars into evidence of His faithfulness. He turns brokenness into wisdom. He turns mourning into joy. He turns rejection into promotion. What others intended to destroy you becomes the very foundation upon which God builds your greatest testimony. So stop measuring your future by what you have lost. Stop counting the people who walked away. Stop replaying every betrayal in your mind as though it has the power to define your tomorrow. Those chapters are over. God is writing something new. Lift your eyes beyond the disappointment, because your greatest days are not behind you, they are still ahead. Walk with confidence, not because life has been easy, but because God has remained faithful through every difficult season. Continue praying when you cannot see the outcome. Continue believing when circumstances seem uncertain. Continue trusting when answers take longer than expected. The God who carried you through every battle has not brought you this far to abandon you now. As you move forward, remember this truth every single day. No attack was greater than God's protection, no betrayal was greater than His love, no delay was greater than His timing, and no loss was greater than the restoration He has prepared for you. The people who tried to stop you only became part of the story that proves God's power. They were never the authors of your destiny. God alone holds that position. Keep your heart humble, keep your faith strong, and keep your eyes fixed on Him. Your restoration is not a possibility, it is a promise. Your purpose is still alive, your calling is still secure, your future is still filled with hope. And when the world looks at your life, they will not remember the season when everything seemed to fall apart. They will remember the incredible way God put every broken piece back together, lifted you higher than before, and showed everyone that a chosen one may be tested for a season, but they can never be defeated when the Lord is fighting on their behalf.